In the early days of my career, for convenience, I chose to move into an apartment in the city center, a decision that nearly plunged me into grave danger. The apartment was small but fully functional, sufficient for someone like me who was just beginning to experience living independently. At that time, the city was suffering from a heat wave for several days, with persistently high temperatures making it unbearably stuffy. Against this backdrop, one morning before leaving, I decided to leave a window slightly open, hoping to allow the indoor air to circulate and alleviate the almost tangible heat. That day, work was exceptionally busy, almost making me forget about the window I had left ajar in the morning. It was only when I entered my apartment that evening that an indescribable odd smell hit me. It was neither strong nor pungent, yet it quietly permeated the air. This scent was not like that of spoiled food nor a chemical smell. It had an unsettling strangeness to it, causing me to frown deeply. To shake off the discomfort, I decided to keep myself busy, trying to divert my attention through other activities. I turned on the TV, hoping its background noise would provide some psychological comfort. Then I rolled out my yoga mat and began doing yoga, hoping to relax my body and mind through a series of gentle stretches and breathing exercises. As I focused on my breathing, touching my forehead lightly to the floor, an unprecedented chill suddenly swept over me as an icy draft coming from under my bed. My eyes instinctively darted to the darkness under the bed. In that unintentionally cast shadow, vaguely saw a human silhouette lying quietly, face up, eyes closed, as if in deep sleep. In that moment, my heart seemed to stop beating. All sounds disappeared, leaving only the silent standoff between me and the uninvited guest. My heart pounded wildly as I struggled to suppress the urge to scream. Each heartbeat seemed to remind me that the person under the bed, the uninvited guest, could wake up at any moment and find me standing there, staring at him rigidly. I tried to make my breathing even softer, more silent, fearing the slightest sound might disturb it. Slowly, very carefully, I stood up from the yoga pose, each movement as if completed in a prolonged slow motion, my every breath seemingly louder than usual. I silently walked towards the TV, my hands trembling as I picked up the remote to turn the volume higher. I hoped the sound from the TV would mask any noise I made next, even the slightest footstep. Then I began what seemed like an endless short journey from the living room to the door. I made each step as light as possible, as if dancing on thin ice, fearing any misstep could spell disaster. When I finally reached the apartment door, my hands were almost uncontrollably shaking as I searched for the doorknob. Gently, slowly, I turned the handle, fearing the slightest mechanical noise would break this fragile peace. As the door gap widened, letting in a draft of cold air, I nearly suffocated was the breath of freedom and fear. I stumbled out onto the street, finding a concealed corner from where I could clearly see the apartment's entrance. My hand still trembled as I dialed the police, and my voice betrayed my panic as I described the situation to the dispatcher. The police said they would arrive soon, and I hugged myself tightly, trying to find a shred of warmth in the night wind. Soon, the lights of police cars and ambulances pierced the night sky, breaking the surrounding silence. I watched from afar as the police entered my apartment, my emotions complex. It wasn't long before they brought the man out. He didn't struggle violently, but clenched a fruit knife in his hand. His vacant eyes and chilling expression were horrifying. The police explained that the man was an escaped mental patient with a history of psychiatric illness who had snuck into my home through the open window, while I was away during the day. This incident profoundly shook me, making me realize how my carelessness had nearly put me in danger. Since then, I've made sure to carefully check every window and door to ensure they're securely locked, day or night. In the first month of my new job, I decided to move into an apartment closer to the office to save on commute time. But this choice ultimately brought me considerable trouble. The apartment was small yet fully equipped, and what attracted me most was the brand new appliances and a spacious balcony with a view of the cityscape. One evening, as I was enjoying the cool night breeze on the balcony, I noticed some delicate flower pots and a neat row of small wind chimes on my neighbor Ashley's balcony. The wind chimes tinkled softly in the breeze, producing a pleasant sound that I found very relaxing. Suddenly, I heard a strange conversation, low and tense. I tried not to pay attention, assuming it was just the sound of Ashley's TV. A few days later, when I came home from work, I found a package at my door with my name on it but no sender information. Opening the package, inside was a beautiful string of wind chimes, similar in style to those on Ashley's balcony. I was both surprised and puzzled that Ashley would gift me such an item. That night, I hummed the wind chimes on my balcony where they gently swayed in the night wind, producing a tranquil sound. The next day, I ran into Ashley in the elevator. I thanked her for the gift of the wind chimes, thinking it was a friendly gesture from her. However, her reaction surprised me. She looked very confused and insisted that she hadn't sent them. This made me uneasy, and I began to wonder what story lay behind the anonymous gift. That night, as I lay in bed ready to sleep, I heard the wind chimes again. But this time, their sound seemed to carry a slight electronic buzz. I got up and went to the balcony, only to see the wind chimes swaying violently in the still night. Panicked, I took down the wind chimes, intending to throw them away. The next day, I decided to ask the apartment security if anyone had left any clues when delivering the package. The security told me that he remembered seeing an unfamiliar person asking for my address that day but didn't intervene much as there was no improper behavior. Hearing this, my heart sank. I began to realize that the person who sent me the wind chimes might have unknown intentions, and I had naively accepted this gift and hung it on my balcony. Upon closer inspection of the wind chimes, I found electronic components inside seemingly a listening device. I immediately disposed of the wind chimes and considered changing the locks or adding some security measures. I also started to keep a record of any unusual events, including strangers lingering around the apartment or strange packages appearing again. Days passed, and everything seemed to return to calm, until I received an unsigned letter. It read, "I hope you like the wind chimes I sent you. They are as beautiful as you." Reading this sentence sent chills down my spine. I immediately contacted the apartment management to request a review of the surveillance footage from those days, hoping to identify the person who delivered the package. The apartment management agreed to my request. After carefully reviewing the footage, we spotted a person dressed in dark clothes, quickly placing the package without anyone noticing. Although the video didn't capture his face, I recognized him as my colleague Randy. Randy was usually gentle and polite, hard to imagine being such a person. I felt both scared and angry that my privacy and sense of security had been so easily bought. I confronted Randy, warning him not to harass me again. He denied everything, claiming ignorance. I deliberately kept my distance from him at work, and weeks went by, and I thought the story had ended. However, not long after, my neighbor Ashley moved out, and the new neighbor who moved in was Randy. When Randy emerged from next door, smiling and greeting me, I felt my world collapse. I immediately packed my bags and left the apartment, and soon I changed jobs. Since then, I have never seen Randy again, and he likely couldn't find me anymore. The clock had just struck 11, and in the quiet apartment, a disturbing sound emerged once again. I sat up straight on the sofa, the heavy breathing outside my door echoing in my ears, accelerating my heartbeat. At first, I deluded myself into thinking it was just a late returning neighbor outside my door. But as time went on, I realized this was not just heavy breathing, but a deliberate, persistent harassment at me. I quietly approached the door, filled with fear and confusion. Peering through the peephole, I saw an empty corridor under the light, serene as any other night, starkly contrasting with the eerie breathing outside. As a woman living alone, I dared not open the door rashly, so I decided to seek the apartment security's help again. But like the previous times when security arrived at my door, all noises mysteriously vanished, as if the person could sense their arrival. The next day, I firmly requested the apartment management to check the surveillance footage. I needed to know who was silently harassing me outside my door when the night was deep. The footage revealed a bizarre scene, a figure loitering in the hallway, moving backward as if deliberately hiding their face from the camera, making it impossible to identify them. That night, the heavy breathing returned, louder and seemingly closer to my door than ever. Without hesitation, I immediately called the security room. Yet, it seemed like a repeat of previous occasions. A moment security arrived, all noises abruptly stopped. However, this time was different. Although I had never seen this security guard before, His face beamed with a reassuring smile. He seemed to hear faint noises in the corridor and quickly ran towards the stairs. He moved so fast that he disappeared in a blink. Hesitantly, I followed him downstairs. Reaching the bottom of the stairs, I stopped, heading under the dim light, only to witness an unexpected scene: a person lying face down on the ground, motionless, with their upper body bare and back turned to the security guard. This scene froze me on the spot, swirling with countless questions. Having never seen the person who breathed heavily, I couldn't immediately tell if he was the one causing unrest at my doorstep, even if I saw his face. However, the person lying on the ground was not tall, seemingly different from the figure in the surveillance footage. My heart raced as I realized this scenario was far more complex and dangerous than I imagined. Turning to the security guard, my unease deepened when I noticed his abnormality. He was significantly more muscular than any other security guard I had seen in the apartment. His uniform tightly stretched over his body as if it could burst from his muscle expansion at any moment. He wasn't a guard who had come to my aid, and I had never seen him before, further intensifying my unease. In the dim light and tense atmosphere, I couldn't clearly see his face, only feeling a strong, almost visible tension emanating from him. Looking at the person on the ground, who now seemed oddly similar to the security guard who had come to find me, I instinctively stepped back. But then the standing guard let out heavy breaths, eerily similar to the breathing I had heard outside my door. At this moment, all my doubts and fears converged into certainty was facing the source of the nighttime harassment. I had no time to think. I turned and sprinted towards the apartment's main entrance, my footsteps echoing in the empty corridor alongside my rapid breathing. I didn't dare look back, fearful of seeing that figure following closely behind. I ran until I was exhausted, convinced I was safe, and collapsed on the road, trying to calm my breathing, overwhelmed by confusion and fear from the events that had just unfolded. That night, I lost my sense of security and trust in the world around me. I knew I had to call the police and move away from that place as soon as possible. The police arrived quickly and began their investigation. Further investigation revealed that the person had knocked out a security guard and taken his uniform to wear. He might have intended to gain my trust, but my sudden escape caught him off guard. I moved out of that apartment soon after, a memory that will haunt me for life.